want to take a moment to have a pretty informal conversation just about my reflections I've been having recently on the early days of learning about relationships and sexuality. And I was going to say pleasure, but no one was talking about pleasure back then. And really, it comes at a important time for me as my daughters are that age where these things are questioned and learned about. And isn't parenting the best opportunity to learn something about yourself? It's just the best. And, you know, thinking back to that time when I was 12 or 13, and maybe you can think back to that time with along with me, everything was very unintentional. There really wasn't any conversation or education around relationships or sexuality or pleasure or consent. The conversations at school were very much logistical. Here's how you put on a condom on a banana, how stereotypical. And there wasn't nuanced conversations about consent or about pleasure or anything like that. So, before I get more into it, perhaps I should introduce myself if you're new here. My name is Janna Denton-Howes, and I am many things. One could call me an empowerment coach, one could call me a marriage coach, one could call me a desire coach, a libido coach, a sex coach, many words to describe what I do. But basically, I help women married to men enjoy sex and feel really satisfied by it. But in doing so, we look at many different facets of being a woman. So I hope this video helps you. Perhaps you have daughters or children as well, and you're pondering these things for them and how you might change. Or you want to do some healing, which is wonderful. I think it's amazing to really reflect back on our own experiences and perhaps what we would change. And so that's what I'm going to explore in this video is kind of 5 things that I would have really benefited from when I was young. And this is not about throwing my parents into the bus. They did the best that they could, just like I'm going to do the best that I can, especially since we live in a culture that doesn't support frank, open, loving, compassionate, curious, reflective conversations about relationships and sexuality. And I also have the unique perspective of having walked with hundreds and hundreds of women through their own healing journeys with their relationship with their body and pleasure and boundaries. And so I know that my experiences are not just unique to me, they are shared by the vast majority of women. So, really, um, I really want to just enter this as a conversation, as a back and forth. I hope that wherever you listen to this or read this, that you'll share your thoughts with me and you'll also go along that curious journey of figuring out what would have been very supportive of me when I entered, when I had my first kiss or when I started to have a boyfriend, whatever that meant at that time, or when I wanted to hold someone's hand, or maybe when you had sex for the first time, right? Depending on when it started. Or maybe you had negative experiences and it would have been very helpful to have somebody there to talk to mentor and guide you. So, here are kind of 5 things that I really wish I had and which I hope to give to my daughters. And number one is just really open and honest conversations about my mom in particular, but my parents' early experiences. It's just so nice to know that the awkwardness or discomfort or excitement, whatever you're feeling, is absolutely normal, that there's nothing wrong with that. And really, the purpose of this would be to normalize that process of getting to know what feels good for you, what doesn't, what works, what not, the funny stories in between. And I'm trying to do that with my own girls. And really good education about my body and about arousal, about how boys' bodies worked, how just how it all works, you know. There were a lot of terminology that was thrown around when I was in high school or even elementary school, like blowjobs and hand jobs and 69 and a lot of things that I didn't understand. But even, I mean, Alanis Morissette was around, like Wine Dine 69 Me. I sang that at the dinner table, and nobody educated me on what that was because our culture is so like, shh, you know, let's just giggle about it, but not actually have real conversations. So I really wish I'd had good, frank, honest education. I really wish that I had had conversations that empowered me to make choices that felt right for me. So rather than do this or don't do this or here are the boundaries, I was even thinking this morning about that. If you have girls, like the whole meme around dads with their shotguns, that's taking consent away from girls. So I'd wish I'd had conversations about, like, well, do you want to kiss? Do you want to hold hands? Do you want to do this? What do you feel about that? Do you want to wear that bikini? Does that feel comfortable within your body? Or would it feel more comfortable to have a full piece? So just opportunities for me to explore in a safe place what my feeling was, what my intuition was telling me. Oh my gosh, that would have been incredible. Also, an opportunity or a space to reflect because this is a journey of learning, which means there will be mistakes, which aren't really mistakes, they're just opportunities for learning. You know, to kind of grapple with you know, did that feel right? Did it not? Um, what would I want to do next time? What did I learn from the experience, right? And then lastly, I would have really appreciated, and certainly my parents did some of this, was boundaries to keep me safe. Because when you're growing and you're learning and you have a growing brain, you aren't necessarily going to be able to make all the best choices to keep you safe, right? You don't have all the knowledge you need, and sometimes you just need someone to step in and say, I don't think so. So those are really the five things that I would love, those open, honest conversations with a mentor about their experiences, really good education about my body, conversations that empowered me to make choices and to help me discern for myself what felt safe, what felt consensual, what felt good. And then those opportunities for reflection and learning and growth and space to make mistakes. And then lastly, having boundaries to keep me safe. I think that's the word that keeps on coming up enough. But safety is a necessary prerequisite to pleasure, and so they come hand in hand. And we often have a lot of conversations about safety, but we forget the pleasure piece, especially with girls, because we're like, if they just knew it felt good, then they just gonna go have sex with everybody. But that's not true. Research has debunked that. When girls are taught about pleasure, they actually have a much better experience overall. So I'm curious how you feel about this. I'm curious when you reflect back on your early experiences, maybe when you were like, you know, 11, 12, 13, or maybe later or maybe earlier, depending on your situation, what would have been really nourishing and supportive and empowering for you? What kind of conversations would you have maybe felt a little awkward, a little squeamish about in the moment, but thinking back as an adult now would have really helped steer you in the right direction and perhaps helped you not have some of the negative experiences that you may have had later on? So let me know. Let's have a conversation. I think it's time that we start talking about this openly because if we don't do it, the next generation won't have the benefit. And then it just the cycle of the giggling and secrecy and shame and all of that will just simply continue. And that's not okay. It's certainly not okay for me. And I hope for you as a woman that it's not okay for you. So wherever you find this video, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or on my blog or in an email I send you, please just like hit reply, create a comment, email me, and let me know what would have been really great for you. And I hope that this is a healing reflection. And if you have children, I hope that, or nieces and nephews, or other children in your life, then I hope that this will support you as well in reflection about what you want to do, perhaps differently with the knowledge that you have now. We don't just have to blindly imitate what we experienced when we were young, because we advance, and that's a good thing. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time.